What's up, everyone? Welcome to the FAA podcast. We are just over 25 hours and 20 minutes until the 2024 NFL draft. And I'm in the middle of watching draft day on my living room. So that was fun, even though I had to pay $4 to watch it on Apple TV. But
it's basically Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah. This is Christmas in April every year. We are getting to our final first round mock. It's been a lot of interesting data gathering to this point. Especially it's these late comers, man. It's all these people are putting out like their draft intel, and it's making my mind get confused.
It's hard to believe a lot of that stuff, but the stuff that comes out 24 hours before, sometimes some of those nuggets will be very truthful.
Yeah,
like I think it was around this time that there was rumors starting about Baker Mayfield going one. It was going to be Sam Darnold most of the draft season. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah. All right. Unlike previous mocks, we're gonna do consensus because John's team and my teams are all even picks. So, we'll see. Logan should be on as well whenever, but we're gonna go ahead and start here. And nothing changed at the top. Caleb Williams going. He best pure passer in the draft. And when I watched his film, I was like, dude, my pro comp is Patrick Mahomes, and people probably hate that, but when I looked at the off schedule plays that he made at USC is just like crazy. The amount the throws that he was able to make when the play broke down. So
I think also just the consistency Caleb has shown the last 2 years, or even more than the last 2 years. It's a lot of people like Jaden Daniels in a vacuum from the last season.
Mm-hmm.
However, the years before that was not as shiny. So the consistency with Caleb, I think, is also a green flag for him. Did you see that the Bears already have a meeting when he came to visit? They just had him meet with all their current offensive players, like Komet. And I was like, this is happening.
Yeah, and I think you can even look back to his Oklahoma tape as well, which I didn't watch, but I remember watching him play at Oklahoma.
Started like half a season there, right?
Yeah.
Took over for Rattler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, number 2, I don't think anything changes either. There really haven't been any rumblings of – actually, there have been rumblings, and it's going the opposite way that people originally thought, and it's that Washington is sticking, and that it's even more solidified right now that it's Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people think that just in a vacuum, the 2023 season was for Jaden Daniels was the best of all the quarterbacks, but he still, I still think goes number 2, and Caleb will be first.
Yeah. And at number 3, the Patriots. Jimmy's gonna get pissed at us.
I don't think they trade.
No, they don't. And again, I wouldn't. Even though we're trying to make the mock draft is a predictive assessment, but
I just think like if they think a quarterback available here, which would be May or McCarthy, like probably May, is a franchise quarterback, then you stick and pick. You never know when you can get your hands on a quarterback like this again. When was the last time the Patriots had a top 5 pick? Probably before I was born, for being honest.
Yeah.
And so you stick here and pick and hope maybe rest him a year behind Brissett. But even more reason why I like Drake May. Drake May has shown that he can deal with not ideal circumstances. He has a big family, so he's always used to getting up and competing each and every day, even if he's thrown to the ground. So I like May here instead of trading.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be the pick. I always go back to the look ahead to the 2025 class, and the kind of feeling right now, anyways, is that it's not strong at the quarterback position. So even if it is, you don't know that you're going to be up here again. So yeah, I think May has to be the pick here, and Vikings fans are going to be pissed. All right, Cards at 4. Once again, we're sticking.
I agree.
I think it's Marvin Harrison, and the one I read a notebook thing on ESPN. I think it was Graziano and Field Yates joint article. Maybe it was someone else too, but they were like, yeah, the Cardinals told Marvin Harrison that if he's available at 4, they're taking him.
I mean, they have 11 picks. I think the biggest giveaway is that the Cardinals have 11 picks in this draft already. You have to pay all of these picks. So what would it look like if you traded back again? You might get draft capital next year, but why would you want to add to this year? You already have 11.
Right.
I think it behooves them just to stick and take the clear number 1 receiver. I shouldn't say clear. There's some guys who like Neighbors, but Marvin Harrison.
As do I. I like Neighbors.
Are you watching Hey Rookie, Welcome to the NFL?
Not
Neighbors is
talent-wise. Not talent-wise, I don't like Neighbors. I just still not a fan of him not working out.
He's been training for football, man. He's ready to hit the ground running. What else does he have to prove?
He has to prove that he wants to be in the league by doing the things that everyone else does.
I mean, he showed out in his junior day last year. He showed the scouts everything they wanted to see, and then he threw the tape on that as well. So I think this is just the new era where, like, granted, it's only going to be like the top of the top guys like Caleb or Marvin who could do this, but not have to go the traditional way. Because at the end of the day, it's the tape that stands out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I don't care if you don't work out at the combine. That's fine. But I care if you don't work out at both. Because you look, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Caleb Williams didn't work out at the combine, but they worked out at their pro days. So, anyways, all right. So now it's the Chargers. And this is, I think, the most interesting spot.
So I know a lot of people are probably going to project that there's a trade here, but I want to present a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you scroll down on the order a little bit? Order of the draft. There we go. So Minnesota is at 11, Denver's at 12. If we go up, who else would realistically take a quarterback? Not the Jets, not the Bears, not the Falcons, not the Titans. It'd really be Giants. So it'd go Giants, Vikings, Broncos, Raiders, right? So the Vikings of those 3 have the best trade offer because they can offer 2 firsts this year. The only other team that has possible better leverage would be the Giants at 6. So do you think the Giants would be a realistic J.J. McCarthy team that Minnesota would have to compete with?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know really what Dayball wants to do. Because
they just paid Daniel Jones. I know they can get out of it next year.
Well, and they don't have a number 1 wide receiver. They have a bunch of slot guys, and then they have Waller. The offensive line's pretty solid. But they also, we don't know what how the backfield is going to pan out with Devin Singletary now.
I would think they get a running back later in the draft to supplement.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think JJ needs that. He needs to go to a Shanahan style, Sean McVay, play action, run game. That's what he's used to at Michigan. And
Right.
the Giants really don't do under center a lot, as far as I remember, anyways. I could be wrong, but
yeah, I think the Giants needs, though quarterback is one of them. I don't think those needs are out. I think those needs are outweighed by their need for a number one receiver, a big receiver. Like you said, they all have slots.
mm-hmm.
So if we're on this line of thinking, then the Vikings don't really have anyone to compete with unless someone were to trade up above them. But I don't think Denver or the Raiders have enough capital to beat out Minnesota.
No, they don't. But I do think with what you said and what I heard, the Penix in the top 10 is interesting because the one team you didn't talk about yet is the Falcons.
I have a hard time seeing that. Why would you draft Penix, who's already a little older? Not a big deal, but how long is he going to sit under Kirk? You just paid Kirk so much money.
Yeah,
you're lucky you didn't get a draft pick loss this week because they couldn't figure it out in time.
Well, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of why the Falcons would do it. Because, well, what if Kirk doesn't play well or he gets injured again, and then you're sitting there, and then next year they take your first round pick away? Then you're screwed. Because then you got to wait till 2026.
That's a lot of speculation, I would think. you don't already know what's going to happen. It would be. What is the precedent for docking picks? When's the last time someone was docked a first round pick? Was that for
the Dolphins?
Was the Dolphins?
The Dolphins in 21.
That's right.
I think they're 21. Or
so
no, it was their 23 first and their 24 third. I think it was.
Let's rein our. So if we're following that thought process, it's not only McCarthy; it'd be McCarthy and Penix that are available here.
Uh-huh.
So then that begs the question: do the Vikings and Broncos and Raiders, instead of trading up, do they wait? I kind of think they wait because I don't think the Giants are going to take a quarterback. If you want to trade up, it might be more affordable to trade up to, say, Tennessee or Atlanta or Chicago.
Yeah, I would wait. I'm not a big fan of McCarthy anyway, so I would wait. And the next quarterback I actually do like is Nix, but
interesting take. Okay, so I think we're both on the sentiment to stay here for the Chargers at 5. We talked about the Giants needing a receiver, but that's if the Chargers don't take one. I still think the Chargers go O-line here, just looking at how Harbaugh has won at every single level. It's having a dominant offensive line and just pounding the rock. You mentioned it earlier, pounding the rock, play action. That's why I think getting Joe Alt here. I know there's conversation about him having to move to right tackle, but Joe Alt could easily move to right tackle and be one of the best right tackles immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy. I'd be happy with
Latham
with this pick here of Alt because I have a bet in for Joe Alt at number 5. With the longest odds, which his odds have went down. His odds have gotten worse since I bet him, so I'm very excited that I got him at plus 400.
Interesting.
Because his odds are about plus 275 now.
After writing that paper about sports betting, I'm not messing with that at all. I also just don't. I think I'd be terrible at it. So I think Joe Alt here. I thought you were going to go like, oh, you can go JC. I know you like JC Latham a lot.
No, I think Alt's the best tackle in the class. I think I compare him to a Joe Thomas. I think he's going to be a 10-year
Pro Bowl. Not as athletic as Joe Thomas, but
he's going to be a 10-year Pro Bowl guy, though.
Yeah, I think Alt here is great at 5. And we talked about the Giants here. If they're not going quarterback, I think both of us are. Is that correct to say we're leaning no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Receiver. So is it Neighbors or Odunze?
I think it's Neighbors. I have Odunze as number 3. Even though he's probably close to Harrison in terms of pro ready. But I think the Giants severely lack as an explosive element at the wide receiver position. So I think Neighbors is the most explosive receiver in the class.
I don't think you can go wrong here. I'm going to push back and say you should go with Dunze. And I look at just in terms of, we were talking about they lack size. Odunze is a little bit bigger at 6'3", 212. And that ability to have to catch at to high point the ball and catch in contested situations, I think is what would help Daniel Jones out a lot. I do like Neighbors' ability to separate, and then his speed is outrageous. So again, I don't know. I think Odunze should be the pick here, just leaning towards the size aspect. But Neighbors in this offense would be great also. So I could go either way. I think either one's a slam dunk.
What did Neighbors run at his pro day?
His pro day, it was just on Hey Rookie. Actually, what did he run at his pro day? I mentioned that. I'm like, oh, I remember, and actually I don't.
Because I have Odunze's combine at 4.45. But I feel like Neighbors would be a 4.3 guy.
He had a 4.35.
Yeah.
And what was Odunze's you said?
4.45. So
right. No, Neighbors is going to be the speedier guy. Yeah, I like them both so much.
Which
these
I think
these 3 receivers are going to be so fun to watch.
Which I think, like I said, I think they need that. I think they need someone like Darius Slayton has been that guy in the past for them, but he's had injuries. I just think Neighbors, Dayball needs someone for Daniel Jones to throw the ball downfield.
Yeah, and I'm looking up Neighbors' measurements at the moment.
I mean, PFF has him at 6'2".
It's a little smaller, but it's not. We've seen so many small. Look at Tank Dell last year have success, so that's not going to be a hindrance. So I'm okay with Neighbors. They're like 2A, 2B.
Yeah.
So okay, Tennessee, I think Alt would have been the obvious choice here, but now that he's gone, I think they're a prime suspect to see if there's any trade offers. Which at this point, a little lower, I could see trade offers being there.
Yeah, now it's like, well, are the Falcons? Do the Falcons actually want to go quarterback? That's
I still think that's
that everyone's going to ask. The 6 offers we have are the Jets, Seahawks, Rams, Eagles, Bills, and the Ravens. The Bills are one I've heard.
I've also heard the Jets though too. You're talking about going for a Dunze here?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think that could be an option here as the trade up for a receiver, not a quarterback. Do we want to go off of only the trade offers that we see or ones that we think would be realistic? Because I also think Minnesota would offer for 7 here.
Yeah.
And give a smaller package.
We can do whatever.
Okay. So I like to go down. I think I like the first team to trade up would be the Jets to get a receiver. I know there's been a lot of talk about O-line or Brock Bowers, but I've also seen a lot of stuff saying that they are very big on the big 3 receivers. And now that Neighbors is gone, Odunze's still there. Be able to pair him with Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson. Mike Williams is only signed to a 1-year deal and has injury history. A lot of people talk about supplementing Keenan Allen and DJ Moore with Odunze, but the Jets are in a similar position. You have a good young receiver. You have a 1-year ex-Charger receiver who's injury prone. Well, why not get another guy to replace the ex-Chargers receiver, right?
Yeah. The The other thing, I know we're talking about the receivers. The other interesting one at 7 would be, what if someone wants to jump Atlanta for whoever is the number 1 defensive player, Byron Murphy or Dallas Turner, or even Laiatu Latu?
I get that line of thinking. Where I push back on it is that because there's so many offensive players going off the board early, yeah, you might not get the number 1 defensive player, but your number 2, number 3 defensive player might still be like a top 10 value.
I'm looking at the Bears, though, at 9 to jump 2 spots, and then they can go a Odunze or they could go one of the defensive guys.
I think the Bears would love Odunze.
But they have 4 picks. That's
exactly. Exactly. I don't think they have the capital to move up. So I look at the Jets here. I think this seems a little rich for any of those bottom teams like Buffalo to move up. Because that would be a lot to give up. And I think you can still get a good receiver, not Odunze level, but I've hinted at I would be Jets Titans offer here. Jets moving up for Odunze.
So what's it gonna be?
Second.
The Jets don't have a second.
They only have a third. Could they give up a second this year? I'm sorry, next year and a third this year? So 10, 72, and next year second.
Yeah. 31%.
Let's see. There you go.
Yeah.
And then Odunze.
Right? Yeah. Even though this is gonna screw my guy Brock Bowers, because that's everyone and their mother has Brock Bowers at the Jets at 10. And now I don't know where he goes. It's the Bengals and the Colts, I think, are the next 2 teams for Brock, potentially.
Maybe even Seattle. Or Indy.
The Titans,
we'll see.
The Titans could be too, because I have tight end as the number 2 need for Tennessee. So love my guy Chigo Okonkwo.
That's an interesting point, actually. I didn't made that dot connection.
I love my guy Chigo Okonkwo. Loved him coming out of Maryland, but he is not Brock Bowers.
Atlanta, I think you could still look at to see if there's anyone who'd take a trade here. I would. Can we dismiss the possibility of Atlanta taking a quarterback? I don't see that. I don't believe that.
I hope they do, or I hope the Raiders trade up, because that's another one of my bets I have is I took the long odds. Once you said it, and then once I read it in an ESPN article, that might be not enough information to go off of, but it's a flyer. It's a flyer, $10.
I'm glad that you trust my opinion enough to put money on it.
It's a flyer, $10 on Michael Penix at 23-1 odds. So
what would you win?
230.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, hey, if
so
you owe me a steak. How about that?
What?
If you win that 230, you owe me a steak.
I am the biggest Michael Penix top 10 fan in the world tomorrow night. But yeah,
I projected him at 13. I didn't project top 10.
So Atlanta,
do you think Minnesota could be trying to trade up here?
See,
I still think they can try and wait.
I don't see the need unless Atlanta. I think the only way Minnesota would trade up is if Atlanta calls them and says, "Hey, we got the Broncos wanting to come up. Can you get us anything better? This is what they're giving us."
And I could see the Broncos trying to move up here for McCarthy. Problem is the Broncos, it'd probably have to be this year's first and next year's first, right? Because they don't have a second.
Yeah. They don't have yeah.
So then Minnesota could counter and be like, we'll give you this year's first and next year's first, and that would be better because they have a pick 11 rather than 12.
I think the Falcons do stay, though, and But I think it's more interesting. One thing I'm very confused about with Atlanta and everyone's mock drafts that I've seen and all the news about Atlanta, I understand the pass rush need up front, but I also don't understand why there hasn't been more corner love for Atlanta, because they need someone opposite AJ Terrell. They've been looking for that for a while.
No, I'm with you there.
But I do have edge as their number one need.
I honestly think Minnesota. I know you don't think there might be a trade, but I think it makes sense for both sides here because you just mentioned Atlanta if they need corner and edge rusher. If you move down to 11, you would. There's a good chance you get your top edge rusher or your top corner.
Yeah.
So I think Minnesota giving up 11 and next year's first would be more valuable than Denver offering this year's first, number 12, and next year's first. So I would take that trade if it's the Vikings, and I would take that trade if it's the Falcons. What do you think?
I'm in the boat of waiting for Minnesota because I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big McCarthy guy. And even if they lose McCarthy, like 23 is Nick's territory, which I think Nick's is the other quarterback that fits in their scheme.
But do you think Denver would be willing to offer 12 in next year's?
Maybe, but again, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with as a Bo Nix believer, I'm okay with that. With not getting McCarthy.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, you get veto power, so because I think we're on two sides of the spectrum here. So you get veto power. We're sticking with Atlanta at 8.
Yeah, Logan's not here yet, so we don't have a third.
Only team where I get veto power is Seattle. How about that?
Sure. So now it's interesting because of what recently has been rumored is Byron Murphy.
I liked Byron Murphy early a while ago, and then I kind of got talked off of it. And it's kind of interesting that smoke is hitting up again. I think Byron Murphy is amazing and could easily be the top defensive player.
Yeah. Let me see.
I also like. I think I've definitely mentioned this on the podcast before. The connection of Laiatu Latu to Jimmy Lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and apparently his medicals came back well.
How much do you think that's being pushed down our throats so he slips? People like Latu and Penix.
I don't know. See, I'm not worried about Penix medicals because he's been so far removed. And I mean, I guess technically Latu has 2, but it has only been 2 years. My thing is with the Atlanta interior defensive line, I'm okay with who they have. I know Grady Jarrett's old, but he's still rolling. David Onyemata, they signed. You got Zach Harrison, a 3rd rounder last year. They got James Smith-Williams, who they signed from Washington.
Click on Byron Murphy's alignment.
Huh?
Click on his name, Byron Murphy. I want to see where his alignment is. So he's lined up mostly in the A gap and the B gap. So he hasn't done much on the outside, which makes sense. You'd want him to be on the inside here. The question is, could you move Grady Jarrett outside, or we said Onyemata was signed? Could either of those guys play outside and Byron Murphy while you put him inside on a snap? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, they have Onyemata playing nose right now. Which I guess I didn't realize he is 300 pounds, so I guess that makes sense. They also have Eddie Goldman unretired for a second time.
Eddie Goldman.
Kentavious Street as well, who traded for from Philly last year.
Interesting. Yeah, now that we've talked this through, this makes me think it'd be better just in terms of need to go edge.
Yeah, because the edge isn't great. I mean, they do have some guys like Arnold Ebiketie in the second round in 22. They got Lorenzo Carter from the Giants last year. Drafted D'Angelo Malone in the third round in 22.
They don't have a guy though, number one.
Yeah.
So I think I do still think it's an edge rusher. Who are you leaning? I still like that connection with Latu. It's been 3 years for Latu also, said in 21.
Well, he sat out a whole year. I think he sit out 2021 and then came back 22, 23 at Washington or at UCLA.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I like Dallas Turner just literally just because of the weight. And I understand that's not a great thing to pick off of, but when I'm looking at Latu, they have him listed at 265 and Dallas Turner is at 242. So Latu just weight wise would be
Latu has
more of
the
a 4-3
athleticism though
D1.
to play standing up. If
I
that's what you're
know.
worried about.
I know. But just weight wise, he is in the mold of a 4-3 D end instead of a 3-4 outside.
I get what you're saying, but I still think his ability, what he's shown, is that he could stand up. Because unless there's another concern related to the weight.
No, not really.
So in that case, I mean, Dallas Turner has been the consensus top edge rusher. You could also question: do you want Jared Verse? Jared Verse is the strongest run defender
I
of
think
the three.
I think he's a 4-3.
I agree. I think Verse, you want him more down. And then Latu is the best pure pass rusher, and then Dallas Turner is kind of like a blend between the two. I would be cool with Dallas Turner if that's where you're leaning.
All right, we got the Bears back on the clock, and
I think this is prime trade territory for the same reasons I was mentioning with Atlanta. You're now only Chicago. They lost their 3 receivers, and they lost Dallas Turner. So I would think they would be looking for someone to trade down. I don't know why they keep thinking Seattle would trade up.
With who?
I know you're high on Knicks and low on McCarthy, but if we're being predictive, I think McCarthy is lock top 10 pick. And I think that's because they are well within 9 is well within Denver's ability to trade up, who I think would be interested in McCarthy. And then Minnesota would either want to trade up or be like, okay, we'll take Penix or Knicks. But I think Denver here at 12, unless you think Zach Wilson's the future, I think if I'm Denver, I'm definitely handing them 12 in next year's first.
I think it would. Oh, I guess it is 4 picks. So
Chicago, though, here might be more interested in getting capital this year.
Yeah, they do need.
Maybe even just one more pick, like 121 or 76. Would you offer that in next year's second?
I don't think it would be even that much. I mean, I guess. See, I think a 1 and a 2 would do it. I understand Chicago probably wants more. So, I mean, we could give them a later round pick because we have 2. Looks like we have 3 5th-rounders. I think all 3 of these are.
When it's this high in the draft, though, it's not going to be. They usually sweeten it even more.
Yeah.
Especially if Minnesota is also they're having to beat Minnesota's offer, which I think Minnesota would offer for 9 also.
Yeah, I mean that's fine, but I think this is good.
I would 4.
Because Denver is not going to give you their 3rd round pick. They can't afford to do that.
No.
So
I would take this.
Now they have a 3, 3 5s, and a 6.
There you go. And then I think Denver would take McCarthy, right? That's the whole point you moved up.
Yeah, I don't like it. I absolutely hate it, actually. Denver is my number one destination for Bo Nix.
That would be a good fit, but I would think they have McCarthy rated higher. Everything we've been saying is that McCarthy's a top 10 pick. Even though I know there's a lot of chatter that it's not going to be a trade up into the top 5 as it used to be, I think if it gets down here to the latter half, closer to 10, 9 and 10, that is, you still have this year's third and next year's first. And then you get McCarthy, Yeah. I think it makes all the sense in the world. And then lines up with what we've been hearing.
I'm hoping that McCarthy goes to the Vikings. I have bets on McCarthy as well.
So I think that might be influencing your opinion.
At either 4 or 5. Those are my McCarthy. The top.
I believe McCarthy might slip down like we had him here. I don't think it makes sense for Arizona Chargers to trade down. You get those guys. Tennessee, I like the Bowers idea, but also I think that they might need. Hey Logan, an offensive line.
Yeah, Logan. So we are almost through the top 10. Got Williams, Daniels, May, Harrison, Alt, Neighbors, Jets up to 7 for Adunze, Dallas Turner, Broncos up to 9 for McCarthy.
I had to fight for that trade for McCarthy.
I'm seeing the Vikings getting screwed out of their QBs, so I'm happy. My bias.
They're not screwed. They're not screwed. Don't worry. Don't worry. We'll get them.
Tennessee, I think O-line or Bowers.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to put Brock Bowers to the top 10. So, I mean, talent-wise, he's easily the best selection. It's just the O-line is so bad, especially at tackle for Tennessee. That's the only thing. However, Brock's almost a tackle himself by how well he blocks.
I still think. Can you pull up the offensive lineman?
Yeah, you got Talise, you got Faltanu, Fashanu, Latham, Mims.
You know how I love Faltanu, but I saw this thing. I think it was Albert Breer that made me have pause. It says some teams are worried about the long-term issue he might have with his knee. Did you see that report?
I did not.
And Breer is a pretty reported, or like, I think, legit reporter. So that made me give pause because every year there's a random guy that you did not expect to slip that might slip.
Yeah, I don't even really understand why Tennessee's tackles suck. Like they've drafted these guys.
They lost Andre Dillard, right? Which
they released him.
But
they have Petit Frere at left, Radins at right. And they got Duncan as well. They tried to last year.
Petit Frere was one of the gambling violation suspensions.
His was only for 6 games last year. And then they traded for Leroy Watson from the Browns as well.
A report just came out. You guys saw about Trey Hendrickson talking about a trade?
He wants.
Well, this minute Bleacher Report says Bengals defensive ends agent says he's hopeful team reconsiders long-term deal, may retire. So he
may retire.
He's mad.
Well, so is T. Higgins, but the Bengals are screwing.
And they got to pay Jamar Chase. Okay, Titans. I think offensive line.
Yeah. My thing with the Titans is that and I forget where I heard it, and like because the running joke is this draft cycle is like, well, everybody picks O line there for them. But I mean, they were one of the biggest free agent spenders at literally every other position except O line. So like, um, you know, I think that where they're at in terms of their long term development as a team, like they can go best player available. But in terms of what has been their strategy this far, this offseason, and we're trying to project, like I think they're very much in on one of these tackles.
So when I look at the tackles available, Waga or Latham, he struggled a little bit last year. I think he's going to be in the teens.
Bucky Brooks was talking about this on Fashanu. I have Fashanu as tackle 2 because last year he had a sleeve on his knee, so there might have been like an injury thing there. But though it was down from 22, it was still a pretty damn good tape.
Mm-hmm.
I think he might be suffering from prospect fatigue. And that people might just be overthinking it with him. So I like him to Tennessee here. That would be my pick. Logan, what do you think?
Yeah, I like it. Is Petit Frere, is he their RT?
I
No,
believe so. Right tackle?
no, they have him at left. Yeah.
Mm.
Or are you looking at our lads?
Yeah.
Well, I would trust them over me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said, John. I'm still a big Olu guy. I think that he's kind of fallen down the board a bit, and I'm not sure. I know he didn't have as good of a season this year as he did last year, but I mean, we're still talking about a guy who's still super young, but who still does so many things well. And I think he's going to be a guy that Tennessee really likes.
Plus, he's coming off an injury though. He pulled his quad at the combine.
He should
So
be fine.
that's why I think he's falling right now. But
the medical's clean on him.
That's fine.
I think Fashanu. I like all of these tackles are good. Like I think J.C. Latham is a start. All of these guys are starters right away.
All right, so we got the Vikings now, and the top 4 are gone. And so Minnesota-wise, I think here now it's Byron Murphy. Interior D-line is my highest non-quarterback need for them. So,
do you think that they could be a Penix or a Knicks team?
Yeah, but they have 23. I think that's where they get Knicks.
Do you think? I just tend to think quarterbacks get pushed up. I know what happened with Will Levis last year, but if the Vikings have 2 first-round picks, why risk losing your quarterback? Because if you wait till 23, there's a chance you might lose your quarterbacks. You can get jumped. But then you're starting Sam Darnold. So the question is if you want to take a quarterback, I think you should take it at 11 rather than 23. Because if you're willing to take them at 23, you think they're a franchise quarterback. So why not just take your franchise quarterback at 11 and just don't risk it?
I think it's because of the value. I think it's because you see one of the best, if not some people have him as the best defensive player in the draft in Byron Murphy. And that's almost as big of a need as quarterback for the Vikings. Their interior D-line is not great.
If you have a need at quarterback and defensive interior, quarterback is immediately your first need. That's the most important position on the field is your quarterback. So that's and if you don't think either of these guys, Penix or Knicks, are your franchise quarterback, if you don't think that, that's fine. Then don't take a quarterback at all. But if you're willing to take a quarterback at 23, then you expect him to be the franchise guy, right?
But I think if they're looking at it and they're okay with Penix or Knicks, which I mean I'm not. I like Knicks over Penix, but when you look at it, it's the Raiders. Like that's the only other team realistically until their next pick, unless someone trades above them. or someone shocks us and
What about the
someone
Rams? I know there's been
someone
heat
like
to
the
the Rams
Saints,
and Knicks.
someone like
There's
the
also been
Saints
heat
or
to
the
Seattle
Seahawks,
to Penix. You
someone
know,
like the Saints, Seahawks, or the Rams, take one of those guys, but I don't think they will, but I still think it's Byron Murphy. I think you can wait until 23 because I think Knicks and Penix are down in the 20s.
Logan, what do you think? You break the tie.
I think that I feel like Kwesi kind of coming from this kind of analytic kind of school, I think he would see more value in taking the kind of the first defender, whatever his best defender is, and then just trying to get, their best quarterback available left at 23, or potentially moving up to maybe leapfrog like the Rams or something like that. I agree that, like, if you take a guy in the first, you're committing to him long term. At the same time, if you take a guy at 11 and you whiff, I feel like it looks a lot worse than if you take a guy at 23 and whiff, if that makes sense.
Logan, you said analytics, and I'm like, damn, I'm losing. My argument is not an analytic argument. Okay. The question then is best defender. I like Byron Murphy here. They also have a corner need, though. Do you like Quinion Mitchell or Byron?
No, I think the interior D line is really badly a need. I don't even have corner on my needs for Minnesota in terms of their top 5, anyways. I'm okay with their corners with Byron Murphy, Caleb Evans, and if our lads would like to load, I could see the rest of their rosters. But
I mean, I would be okay with Byron Murphy here. I think his knock is he's just a little undersized.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's a guy a lot of teams are going to love. I think he's a good, if you're betting on guys to be the first defender taken, I think he'd be a pretty good bet.
Yeah, so Murphy, Evans, like I said, and Mekhi Blackman. They signed Shaq Griffin from Carolina, and they had Jawan Williams as well, and Andrew Booth.
My thing is, all of those guys could be upgraded by Quinion Mitchell.
Yeah, but the interior D line. So they signed Jerry Tillery, they have Harrison Phillips, and they have Jaqueline Roy, and that's it. That's all they got. At that. And then they have Jonathan Bullard and Jonah Williams, who they signed as well.
Yeah. But, well, hey, at 23, if they don't go quarterback, they can go corner. That's a discussion for later.
But yeah, I think Murphy would be able to slide in and either take Tillery or Bullard's spot at one of the DN spots. And plus, I think the undersized isn't Flo will coach him up.
Chicago. Yeah. I think they take best edge rusher here. I know a lot of people talk O-line. It's too early for receiver. Unless you think they're a Bauer sneaky team.
No, that's a Jimmy thing. That is a Jimmy, we're gonna run 12 personnel every single play thing. I don't agree with it. But yeah, I think it's lie to.
I go Verse here just because I think his run defense for Chicago would be more helpful than, not more helpful, but I think that would be a better fit than Latu.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with either. I was just checking to see. I couldn't remember what defense they ran, but 4-3 for Chicago, so makes sense with either one. Logan?
I think the tiebreaker for me is Latu's medical. I feel like if I'm predicting who's going to go first, there might be some teams that have him maybe not necessarily off their board, but have, kind of like a little red mark there. So
it sounded like it was good.
yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't think it's that big a deal. Like, it's kind of similar to the Jalen Phillips situation, kind of from a couple years ago. The guy's played now, like, I think what, 2 seasons of like high profile football since he had to kind of like medically retire for a little bit. I don't see it as a problem, but I know that some teams and their kind of doctors and stuff might.
All right, reverse.
You already know what I want here.
Yeah.
I stand by it.
I have corner as the number one need for Vegas.
Logan, what do you think?
Yeah, I've been kind of taking corner for them as well. I know that there's kind of a quarterback conversation here.
Yes. Penix.
For whatever reason, and I love Michael Penix. The media has been pushing, like, especially over the last like 2 weeks, like there could be like 6 guys taken in the first round. And I just don't see it happening. You know what I mean? Like, it's very much lying season right now.
But I think it's similar to Minnesota. It's all right. We do like this guy. But like I saw in Matt Miller's final mock today, he had the Raiders trading up with the Cardinals to get Penix, which I think is definitely a better move than taking him at 13. I think both Nix and Penix are going to be in the 20s or later.
I think the Raiders here. Oh, where you're talking about traded up to the Cardinals' second pick is what you're saying.
Yeah.
For a second, I thought you were talking about trading up to 4. I was like, for Penix at 4? I regress. I still think that the Raiders go Penix here. I know it's lying season, but it is also this time of year later that the coaches tend to get involved. And some of the smoke that you do hear later on tends to be truthful. I mentioned earlier the Baker Mayfield smoke started only 24 hours before the draft. Another smoke headline was last year when the Cardinals would trade up to get Will Anderson also, in addition to CJ Stroud. So there are some truthful nuggets out there. And I mentioned this earlier with Murphy. At the beginning of the season, Murphy was like a top 10 pick from what I was thinking and hearing. And then he kind of dropped down. And now the smoke's rising that he's going to go top 10 again. Well, that's another thing with Penix. I think what Penix is hurt with a lot is what his performance was against Michigan in the last game. But before that game, people had him as a top 10, top 15 pick after his performance against Michigan and what he's shown at Washington the last 2 years. So I think Penix is a legitimate day one starter franchise guy. And the Raiders, who seem to be wanting to go with Jaden Daniels, obviously lost out on him. I would think Penix would be the guy that they'd want to lead and just run with here at 13.
It doesn't have anything to do with your Washington bias, John.
I'm telling you, I'd put money on this. I'm not going to, but I would.
Well, it seems like you're outvoted. It seems like Logan and I want to go corner.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. We'll see tomorrow.
We'll get you Penix. It'll just be later. So if we are going corner, Logan, you want to go Quinyon? Or you like Tyrion better?
Yeah, I don't really have kind of an opinion. They're very closely, kind of rated. I think Quinyon, maybe has more upside, which I think maybe gives him the edge. I don't know.
Quinyon's also the faster guy. Didn't he have the faster 40?
That's what I was gonna go with. Yeah, Arnold ran very slow. He ran a 4.6, I think. So yeah, that's the
He
reason.
ended up getting a 4.49 at his pro day, though, I believe.
Yeah, I trust the combine numbers. Those pro day numbers, you never know. So yeah, I think Quinion Mitchell. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, tackle.
Yeah, tackle.
Everyone knows the Saints need a tackle.
I think Fuaga or Latham would be the option here.
Yeah, I like Fuaga.
I'll be right back, guys. I have to run to the restroom.
Sure.
Right. You in with Fuaga?
Yeah, I'm for it.
That's like the easiest pick of all the teams.
Yeah.
All right, the Colts. So I think the way that the board is right now, and I didn't have tight end on my top 5 needs for Indy. However, it is very, very difficult to see Brock sitting there and not taken.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Colts have had good tight ends for the last however many years. Jelani Woods, Kylan Granson, Mo Alley Cox, Drew Ogletree, Eric Tomlinson, Will Mallory. But I mean, talk about wanting to get weapons when there's not a valuable receiver right now. I think it's still a little too high for AD or Brian Thomas.
I mean, I would be comfortable, I think, here with Brian Thomas if Bowers wasn't on the board. I think it's just about who's the best playmaker available right now. And I think it's Bowers, and then you leave it up to Steichen to figure it out.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's go Brock.
I came into this conversation late, but I'm happy with that. I was hoping Bowers was the pick.
All right, John, Seattle.
All right. Let's run through my analysis. Is Cooper DeJean the top of the board right now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the way I like to do this is count how many prospects I would be happy with Seattle taking. I would count DeJean, Lot 2, Johnny Newton. I would be cool for Tanu. Can you scroll down? And Graham Barton. So those would be the 5 that I would be like, okay, I want to make sure I get one of those 5 if I trade down. So I count 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. The lowest I'd really want to draft is 20. However, if I got an offer at 21 or 22 that I'd be okay with, that's what I would weigh. I would not want to drop below 22. So do you guys think there would be any offers here? I know there's 0 on the board right now, but
Philadelphia's calling.
cool.
Philadelphia's calling. And that's what I've heard, right? That's
Philly wants to move up.
Yeah,
Seattle needs a second,
and the Eagles need to get ahead of these corner-hungry teams. Jags, Bengals, Rams, Steelers, Dolphins could all take corners. So yeah, I mean, I don't like to give up 50, John. I want 50. I like to give up 53, but if you want 50, I'll give it to you.
I would say we try to get 50 because we're out of that 5 pick range. So we're risky. We might lose one of the 5 guys.
All right. I'll give you 50. And is that enough? Is that good enough?
I think that would be good.
Okay. Well, yeah, we had to force it because they didn't want Philly to trade up. So yeah, now it's my team. All right. And it's an easy pick. It's Cooper DeJean. I think Cooper DeJean has been the guy. I mean, early on in the mock drafts when he wasn't going earlier, it was really nice. We could sit back at 22. DeJean would fall to us, and we'd be loving life. But I think, and I know, again, going off Matt Miller's latest mock, he had them going with Guyton at 22. But I think if Howie trades up like I've been hearing him wanting to do, and it's going to be for a corner, even though he's never drafted a corner in the first round.
I agree.
Is the guy most versatile defensive back in the draft.
I agree with DeJean, actually. Yeah.
I concur.
And I think his stock really shot up after he looked very, very good at his workout.
He just needed to be healthy. I think that's exactly what it is, you know?
Yeah.
And he didn't even look healthy. He showed up. Showed up, showed out.
All right. Jacksonville here. Again, it's corner. This is all corner territory. So I think Tyrion Arnold. That's my pick.
What does their interior offensive line look like?
I know Jimmy's hate on Ezra Cleveland at guard is
because the question is, would you like Troy Faltano here? Be able to move him inside.
So you got Ezra at left, Mitch Morse they signed from Buffalo at center, and they got, of course, the All-Pro Brandon Scherf at right.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the value I would say for Tyrion Arnold here would be the go-to.
Yeah, they need someone like they signed Ronald Darby and he sucks. The depth is not great at corner. They need someone to help Tyson Campbell on the other side. So we got 3 votes for Tyrion. Cincy here.
Ben Sinnott. I'm just kidding.
I have corner. That's the number 1. They could go tackle though, right?
They could go edge too now.
Right.
Ooh, they could go receiver. What's going on with T. Higgins?
Mm-hmm.
Is this Brian Thomas territory?
It is. I do have wide receiver as the number 2 need.
Question.
I don't know.
Logan just mentioned edge need. Leatu Latu, do you think he could replace Hendrickson and then you trade Hendrickson if he's threatening to retire?
Yes.
What would someone give up for him? He wants a new contract.
Like you mentioned before, though, John, with Cincy, the interior D line as well. Johnny Newton could be a play here. So the Bengals, there's a lot of options with these guys wanting trades.
I think it's hard to speculate with some of the needs related to edge and receiver until we know what actually happens. So I would lean D tackle or O line.
You don't like corner with Wiggins?
It seems a little early for corner. I think you could
yeah.
I think after those top 3 go, there's a little bit of a drop off. Some teams do really love Wiggins, but he's just so small. And what scares me is who was the corner that was drafted by Washington last year who was very tiny? Forbes.
Yeah.
And so that's what worries me a little bit about Wiggins.
He's bigger than Forbes was by 7 pounds.
That's not a hard mark to beat, though.
166. That's rough. Yeah, Wiggins 173 though.
I could roll with Johnny Newton here. I can roll with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with Johnny. I'm on the Latham train. I think they need a long-term right tackle.
I like Latham.
Trent Brown's only a 1 year. Trent Brown's only signed a 1 year, so
I would vote Latham.
Yeah, I would say Latham or Furtanu. I think either of those guys kind of gives you. They gotta figure out the O-line somehow, some way.
Yeah, I like Latham, and he already knows how to play right tackle, which is what they need. Once Brown leaves next year, or he gets hurt this year. All right, LA here.
I think it's a debate between the top 2.
I think it's Johnny Newton. That's yeah. I mean, it's really what you want. Both have medical concerns. I don't know.
I don't know if Newtons are more of a concern. It's just about when is he going to be good to go.
Yeah, so I have interior D line over edge as the needs for the Rams.
I think both needs are equal, so it's really becomes a question on which prospect do you like better between Latu and Newton,
Logan,
rather than leaning. Because if you're saying you're leaning Newton just because of need, I think the needs are the same. So I think the question rather is who's the better prospect? Which prospect do you prefer?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning Johnny Newton here. I love him, and I mean, I know I get sucked into kind of the highlight reels, but and obviously he's going to have gigantic shoes to fill, and I don't want to put too much on him. But I'm thinking about how they were able to move, Aaron Donald around a lot to cause havoc on that line, and I'm thinking to that one play of Johnny Newton just kind of running running the edge. Obviously, they're not going to have him out there quite a lot as they did Donald. Different players, different play styles, but I think that Johnny Newton gives you a lot of versatility in terms of what he can do inside and in the pass rush. So that's where I would go if I was them.
I like Newton. I remember watching because when the Seahawks drafted Devin Witherspoon last year, I watched a lot of Devin Witherspoon tape, and every single time I was like, "Who is that bad mother effer
Yeah.
in the middle of the D line?"
So, well, and the reason why I have interior D line over the edge for the Rams is because when you can look at the starters, okay, but then the D line depth is horrendous for the Rams. At least at edge, they have some capable guys. I know Michael Hoyt is the other starting outside opposite Byron Young, but then they have Ochuan Mathis and Nick Hampton and Zach Van Valkenburg as well. So I think those are that's a big reason why I like going interior D line here over.
I'm good with Newton. Y'all convinced me. It wasn't much convincing. I was just like, I don't know which one of those guys I like better.
Yeah, it's close.
All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah.
Thomas?
I don't know. They signed some dudes in free agency. That's the only way I can. Quez Watkins, Van Jefferson, are the guys they got in free agency. I have.
You still have Allen Robinson, or was he cut?
No, he was cut. I have corner, wide receiver, tackle is the needs. So I'm okay with going Nate Wiggins. They need someone opposite Joey Porter. Secondary needs to get younger. Plus, I have an inkling that the Steelers are gonna get a wide receiver in the trade market. It's not going to be for 20. At least I don't think it will be because I don't think any of the wide receivers that are available trade wise are worth a first round pick. I think it's going to be a second round pick. And they just created $7 million in cap space by restructuring Alex Highsmith's contract today. So that makes me think they're a guy.
If you are going with, if you're not going to go with receiver, which I can understand that, I think then the pick would be Amarius Mims. I think O-line. I know you say corner, but I think Amarius Mims is the best true tackle available. Fautanu is still available also. And if I'm Seattle, I'm excited. But I would go line here. Graham Barton, even with his versatility, you can move him anywhere.
My thing is, though, is after Joey Porter and Dante Jackson, there ain't anything. There is
Nate Wiggins.
There is Darius Rush at nickel, Luke Barku, Corey Trice, who they drafted in the 7th round last year. They had signed Josiah Scott, Kalen Barnes, Thomas Graham.
Logan, what do you think? Corner or tackle?
I'm on the tackle train with John, and I think it does come down to whether you feel like you want a true OT or you want someone with positional versatility. And the three guys I'd be looking at is, Fatanu, Mims, or Barton. But I will defer to the resident Steelers fan who knows the roster more than I do.
This is
Yeah,
a very good point.
I just think it's so bad at corner. Like Dan Moore is at least serviceable at left tackle. And even if you don't want to keep him there and you want to kick Broderick Jones over and, get someone later, that's cool. Because while there aren't that many first round guys left, there are going to be guys in the second round. You look at Kieran Amagaji, Kingsley Suamataia, Blake Fisher, Roger Rosengart, and Patrick Paul. I like those guys, especially at right tackle, which would be the pick with all those guys, I think. Maybe except Suamataia. I think he's the one guy that I would be putting at left. So I just think the need at corner is so bad opposite of Joey Porter that they have to go Wiggins.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Logan. You do know your roster better.
With the thought that they probably aren't going to have a second round pick because I'm predicting that they're going to trade for a guy with number 51.
So Wiggins?
That's my pick, yeah. All right, Miami here. Sucks, man. The two interior D line are gone, but it's okay because we got Graham Barton on the board.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking would be best for them would be Graham Barton. Versatility, move him inside if you need.
Yeah, we need a guard starter. Right guard to replace Robert Jones. Although I did miss that they just signed Jack Driscoll. Don't know how I missed that one, considering he's a former Eagle. But Logan, you on the Barton train here?
Yeah.
And plus, he can play center if Brewer gets hurt, or tackle if Teron Armstead gets hurt again. He can play all five.
That sound you're hearing is John running to the podium.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Okay. I'm gonna say this one piece at the beginning, and I'm not gonna go with it. But Penix, I still think Penix is a franchise quarterback. Day one.
That's
the
fine.
fact that he's available at 22. It's just going to be interesting to see now that Schneider doesn't have the controls of Carroll if he might decide Geno. I love Geno, but if he decides that Geno isn't a franchise guy and that was Carroll's dude, then this is his opportunity. So he could shock the world.
That's fine. Take him, John.
Despite that,
take him.
I look at Latu and Troy Fautanu, who I love, and I'm so excited are both here. Both Pacific Northwest connections. Fautanu at Washington. Latu was at Washington before he got medically retired. This is so hard because I think Latu would be able to bring an immediate spark to the pass rush that I think has been missing, and then his ability to stand up, and I think it would just be a great fit in Mike McDonald's system. And I very much can see McDonald wanting to go defense right away, especially considering the rush on offensive players that have pushed guys like Latu down. And then Fautanu, this is hard. Seattle doesn't have great guard depth. No. They just signed Laken Tomlinson, and your starters are currently Laken Tomlinson, Anthony Bradford, and then at center, Olu Oluwatimi, who's a 5th-round pick. So you'd argue guard interior, which if you took Fautanu he'd play guard for you, would be the bigger need. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are, because I'm honestly very 50-50 right now.
I'm on Faltano. I have interior line as the number one need for Seattle. Edge is my fourth need for them. Just because you have some highly drafted picks there with former second rounders, and Daryl Taylor, Boye Mafe,
Daryl Taylor can't set an edge. He's been benched the last 2 years.
And Derek Hall, all second rounders within the last 3 years. And plus, you got Uchenna Nwosu as well. So
yeah, he'll be coming back.
Yeah,
Logan,
I don't think you can go wrong here. I will say that I think in terms of needs, I'd probably lean Fautano. I just think that he could shore up that interior and he could play, at one of the tackle spots if you needed him to. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines as you guys. As much as I would love Latu in the system, I think Fautano. It's a perfect connection. Who was Fautano's offensive line coach and offensive coordinator last year? The current offensive line coach and offensive coordinator for the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just a match made in heaven. And then especially Abe, Fautano is the pick here. Especially if Abe Lucas, who had like a chronic knee issue last year, if for some reason he can't play anymore, God forbid, you have a serviceable, if not serviceable, a good starting right tackle in Fautano as well. So,
or you can
Latu slipped this far. That's crazy.
Or you can kick Lucas inside potentially.
Well. It's been talked about, but he hasn't played inside since I think high school, if at all.
All right, guys, it's Bo Nix time. Let's get it. Let's go. This is my
going quarterback here. You guys know what I think. I would go Penix over Nix here.
Bo Nix. The Vikings are my number 2 team fit for Bo Nix. I think he would play very well in the Kevin O'Connell style scheme. Just because it's the play action, even though it's more under center than Nix. Obviously, Oregon, they didn't do under center, but I think he would play well in Minnesota. Not as well as Denver, but still.
Logan, what do you think?
I personally like Penix better, but if I'm crystal balling who I think goes first, I think it's going to be Nix because of Penix's kind of injury history. And I think some teams he might be kind of below their thresholds in terms of size.
They're right next to each other.
Yeah. PFF, those cowards.
I mean, hey, if y'all want Nix, I think Nix is a starting quarterback also. That's what's so exciting about this draft. I don't know what you guys think, but this draft is so intriguing because there's 6 starting quarterbacks, arguably.
Jimmy hates Bo Nix. Jimmy is a big Bo Nix hater.
Is he haunted by his Auburn tape?
I don't know.
He
wasn't even that bad at Auburn, but he just elevated his game at Oregon because he actually had people to throw the ball to.
Nix would be going into a very good position.
Exactly. They already have weapons.
Yep. Even though the Jetta contract's going to be a lot.
Well, that's not his issue. That's why you win a Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback, right? You know all about that, John.
I do. I really do. I like center here. Based off of the discussion we had the other day where, they need a starting center now.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Do you go receiver?
No. Receiver's my 4th need for them. I do have center as my number 1. I think the other interesting one is Mims. But I think Dallas is okay with doing either one. Talking about Tyler Smith, keeping him at tackle, keeping him at guard, or kicking him out to tackle. I think they're going to determine where he's going to play based off the draft and how it falls.
I would be cool with Mims here. Mims has slipped.
It's tough though.
And I
with
like
only 8
Mims over
games.
JPJ just overall.
It's tough with only 8 games though.
Yeah, that's true. And he has his injury past. That's why.
That's why I would go JPJ for over.
So yeah, I think my gut said JPJ, so that's where I would go then.
Logan, you go with JPJ?
Yeah.
All right, Logan, take us.
Yeah, so this is my nightmare because a lot of the nice, versatile O linemen have kind of all gone on a run here. Amarius Mims is still there, but I think his injury history, coupled with he's typically kind of bigger than the Packers like to go at, and I don't necessarily know if they have caps on their thresholds, but I do know that they have never drafted dudes kind of as big as Amarius Mims. But I think more than that is going to be the injury history that they shy away from. And that's going to be the same thing for Leatu Lato, I think. I think he's somebody that, despite edge not necessarily being a need, I mean, they just spent a first last year on Lucas Van Ness. The Packers always go best player available. I think they'd have him highly rated, but I think he might be kind of off their board for medicals. I think my prediction for what they're going to do tomorrow, based on kind of what I know of their interests, hell no. Nope. No. No, sir. All due respect to Mr. Wilson, but we'll see you again at pick 41, maybe.
I've been seeing a lot of stuff where Peyton Wilson falls to 3, the 3rd round.
Hell no.
Yeah. Well, he really doesn't fit their profile because he's older. I think he has an injury history.
Yep.
I just ignore that.
Yeah. I think what they're going to do, I think they're going to stick and pick, and I think they're going to take Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. Just a guy who is a young prospect, but coming from a big-time Power 5 school. He's not a crazy athlete that they usually go after, but he's an above-average, adequate athlete at a premium position of need. I think if I'm predicting based on what this board looks like and kind of what their tendencies are, I think that's what they would do.
What about trading back, Logan? Because the board's not great.
Yeah, I mean, that's also something that I think they would definitely explore. I think it would all depend on if they felt like they got good value, but also if there are still first round graded players that they have on their board available. I think they'd probably stick and pick because they already have, and I've seen a lot of
You got 5
Packers fans kind of, trading back and just acquiring. They already have 5 top 100 picks, and Gutekunst obviously is a guy who looks to acquire as many picks as possible. He loves taking his picks. At the same time, I think he thinks that he has enough value, especially in the top 100, to where he doesn't feel like he needs to do that.
What I would be interested to do is, obviously we're only doing the first round tonight, but trade back, especially with these offers that they have right now, the Bills and the Ravens. It's not trading far back, and picking up capital. And then the thing is, you're not picking until 41. Like I would go up then, like, because at 28 or 30, who knows who you're gonna get, but then you can go up. They would one of the tackles in the second round, like Morgan or Guyton, if they're still there, obviously. But
I think they definitely would explore a trade down kind of with the Bills and the Ravens, kind of with another team at the back end of the first round.
So I could see the Ravens wanting to move up. The only way the Bills would move up is if they're about to get dumped.
So you want to stick it with Kool-Aid, or you want to trade?
Let's get a little funky here. We can trade. Yeah, let's see what the
You
Let's
want
see
the
what
Bills
they're
or the Ravens?
Let's
Or crazy
do.
enough, the Raiders.
I think that if a team moves up here, I think it would be for Brian Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has that kind of explosive profile. There's a lot of teams that are going to have needs at wide receiver, kind of at the back end of the first round, and the Bills are one of them. So
28 and 60 get it done.
The only thing I don't like with the Bills is that they see. I would think the Bills would only have to pay a third. 3 picks this late in the first. I think a third round would get you up. They don't have one, so
yeah, I think.
What about a second next year?
They really love their picks, and they really love their day 3 picks. I would not be surprised if to move back 3 spots, all it took was like 128 and like 144.
Okay.
Can I say something before this is accepted? Just as a question.
Mhm.
Arizona's been linked to corner. So would the Packers be a little more scared to move back for this little, knowing that they might lose Kool-Aid to Arizona?
I think it depends on if they have Kool-Aid rated as a first rounder or if he's like a top second rounder. I don't know, man. They're weird. Like they like having their picks, and even though that they have a lot of top 100 ones, they usually have more day 3 picks than what they currently do. So I could see them moving back and doing this and just kind of playing the board.
Yeah, it looks like 1 4, 1 5, 2 6s, and 2 7s.
Mm.
All right.
Makes sense to me.
All right, so we're on with Buffalo, and it's Brian Thomas, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what I would think.
It's interesting that they have him rated below.
That
AD.
is interesting. Look at the ADP though.
Yeah.
My gut said right away once they traded Stephon, I'm like, they have to move up.
I'm still not a big believer in moving up for a wide receiver with how deep it is. I understand like Brian Thomas by most people's standards is the guy at number 4. But I don't know. I just think obviously it just depends on what you want, but
For Tampa, I think the value here is too good to let Latu slip.
I agree.
yeah, I guess so.
I have Tampa as a Chop Robinson spot, but if Latu's available, Latu.
Yeah, I mean Edge is my 5th need for them.
The thing is, Latu's such a good value, though.
Yeah.
I think value trumps need in this aspect.
Yeah, and I think they still do need like pass rusher, so I think that would be.
Yeah, I mean I agree. I would go with Latu based off the value. My actual pick would probably go Kool-Aid, but because they traded Carlton Davis away, but yeah, I'm okay with Lot. Could you imagine though if he would get all the way to Arizona at 27?
That would be insane. It might.
All right, so this is where Matt Miller had the Raiders coming up for Penix. Do we want to do that?
I don't know.
Because now
the Raiders, who are they competing against?
The Lions. The Lions are the next team.
For Penix?
Why
What
not?
do you think is I think they re-signed Goff.
Well, I understand they drafted Hooker last year and he's looked good in his rehab coming back, whatever, but why not?
Because you have Jared Goff and Hendon Hooker.
They haven't negotiated yet with Goff.
Yeah, the Cowboys haven't either, and we didn't bring them up as a quarterback needy team.
Well, that's because
I just think that's a matter of timing. I personally think the only team you'd probably be competing against is the Giants. So you might want to jump the Giants, but I don't know if you'd have to jump this far. So though I know I was pounding my fist for Penix, I don't know. I'm kind of going to your guys' argument earlier. I think you could wait and if you trade up, you don't have to trade up as far. Maybe trade up to like first pick day 2.
But you get the fifth year though. That's the
I kind of think that's over hyped. Because if you have a quarterback that's good enough that you pick up a 5th-year option, you just extend him in that year anyways.
But
so I would say being able to get rid of having to use less capital to trade up would trump having to.
But I think also with a team like the Raiders, with them having Minshew available, they're a team that I think the 5th-year option would be that much more valuable because they can sit Penix.
I don't know why you would sit Penix, to be honest. I think you
drafted him at 27.
It doesn't matter about draft; it's about pro readiness, and Penix is pro ready. Like he's not a guy who needs to sit for a little bit. So let's say like McCarthy, I think Arizona. I think they stay here because I don't think the Raiders, even if they offer, would be offering anything that the Cardinals would want to drop that far for. Especially, there's some good players on the board still.
Wow, the 49ers are the only one.
I like Chop Robinson here, or
I like Kool-Aid.
I just keep hearing stuff that Chop Robinson's going to be a top 20 pick, and I don't know where to fit him if that's the case. I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle surprised everyone and went Chop Robinson. They do shit like that. Excuse me.
I don't have a lot of teams high needs of edge. Atlanta and Detroit are the only two that I have as their number one. And then Chicago, Cleveland doesn't have a first round pick. The Rams, Chicago and the Rams are the only two that I have the second pick, the second need. So,
I mean, I could see Kool-Aid McKinstry being the pick here. Like I said, I would lean Chop
coming up, so you can give him to Detroit. But yeah, I like Kool-Aid to Arizona, as much as Logan's going to lose out on it. But
hey, that's the game.
All right, Packers back on the clock, Logan. The board doesn't look too much different. Peyton Wilson's still available.
Is Amarius Mims the move? Because he's standing
up. It has to be.
Here's the thing with Amarius Mims. I love the upside. The Packers love, and I mean love, versatility at O-line. Like they cross-train all their dudes. They want to be able to mix and match to get their best 5 out there. Mims is just way too big to play anything other than tackle. And right now they have 2 really quality starters at tackle.
Rasheed Walker.
Yeah, Rasheed Walker, he's a plus starter. And Zach Tom, honestly, the way he's played has been one of the best right tackles in football.
I thought they were going to move Tom to center.
There's been rumblings about that. When they first drafted Zach Tom, and this goes back to how much they love their versatility, they said he could play all 5 positions, and Goody felt like potentially his best position was center. But he hasn't really played center for us, and he's held it down so well on the right side. I don't see them messing with a good thing. Even if the board fell this way.
It is funny, though, that the board is where it is because their top 3 needs for Green Bay I have as safety, tackle, linebacker.
Right. And I mean, the thing is, too, is like Safety and linebacker are two of their biggest needs. I don't think there's a safety or linebacker worth a first round selection in this draft. I just don't.
Depending on how you classify DeJean.
Right. Exactly. So I think what they would do here is two avenues. I think they would go a tackle not named Marius Mims. Maybe Jordan Morgan, maybe Suma. I don't know how to say his name. Sumatia.
Matahia? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see him as a first round.
There's been rumblings. What about Zach Frazier? He could play both interior spots. All three.
I like him. I think that's somebody who they would target at 41. I'm not sure that they would spend a first on a kind of center. I think they'd want someone who has guard tackle versatility, not guard center versatility, if that makes sense.
Right.
The other guy who I would think about in this spot potentially is Chop Robinson. He's more undersized than they typically like to go for. But the Packers don't shy away from like just adding players at positions of need. He'd give them something in that room that they don't necessarily have. It's a lot of big bodies in that room. And Rashawn Gary's coming off of kind of a down year. So that would be something that with the way this board is, I also wouldn't be surprised with. With that said, I think they would go more tackle guard versatility. I think they would do Jordan Morgan here.
That makes the most sense.
I like that one. I like Jordan Morgan. Chop. I know he has the size to play a 4-3 end like the Packers are transitioning to, but I don't know. In my mind, he should play a 3-4 outside linebacker. Just because he, as far as I can remember, almost never put his hand in the ground. Even though I know you can rush from 2-point stance in 4-3 DN, but much more of an outside linebacker, I think, anyways. All right, yeah. Let's go Jordan Morgan. So now it's Chop. even though I just
I think so. I mean, there's
an outside linebacker, but
you can question if they would take Zach Frazier. He just seems like I think Zach Frazier goes in the first. I've brought him up a few times, but he's just such a Dan Campbell guy, like with his wrestling background. But yeah, I agree. I think Chop Robinson, it just fits the need plus value is perfect here.
I'm also pounding the table for AD Mitchell, though.
I could see that. Who knows what's going on with Jameson Williams? He's been off the field for a variety of reasons.
Well, they need to replace him for Josh Reynolds.
Exactly. So I could see Mitchell here. I still lean Chop Robinson. That's where my vote would go. But Mitchell, yeah, I could see that very much easily too.
I think it would probably be Chop for me. I think he's also a guy that Dan Campbell would kind of go nuts for. I think he'd pair really well kind of with Aiden Hutchinson kind of on the other side. I think that'd be a good fit.
Yeah, he would add the speed element to Aiden's power. All right. Ravens, it's AD. I think it's it's AD or Amarius Mims. I think those, because there's no corners really right now. So those are my next two needs for Baltimore.
I think this is Ennis Rakestraw territory. That being said, I don't think corner would be the go-to. I like Mims or Mitchell here. I'm looking at their depth chart. They just extended Rashad Bateman. Did you guys see that? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I think Amarius Mims would be where I'd lean right now. Currently, they're starting left tackle Ronnie Staley. That's good. But Daniel Fa'alele is on the right side, a 4th-round pick from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And they just signed Josh Jones, but I think Amarius Mims, this is another value meets need perfect fit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd probably go with Mims. I think as fun as it would be to kind of give them Mitchell, I think the fact that they finally have kind of a wide receiver one in Zay Flowers, they could probably wait on wide receiver. I think Mims is kind of the play.
Okay. Their wide receiver depth is shit. Absolutely shit. San Fran. This is Zach Frazier territory right here.
I like Zach Frazier here. Question is what happens with Ayuk. But I think, as we did with the Bengals earlier, we should just go off of the information we have that we know that's happening right now. So I like Zach Frazier. Can you scroll down on the prospects? Just want to make sure there's no one standing out. I looked at the order of the second round. The first team that has a quarterback need would be the Raiders. So the only way that they would need to trade up is if someone would jump them. That could be New Orleans, New York, Seattle. So I don't think the Raiders need to trade up into day one. And Penix will just become a second rounder at this point.
Yeah, I think I like Frazier here. He could also go Guyton though as well.
Now that you say that, actually, I believe. Let me look at their depth chart. I believe right tackle is the more pressing need.
Yeah, they got Colton McKivitz there right now. Brandon Parker they signed from the Raiders,
and then Jake Brendel at center.
Jake Brendel's the issue at center, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Logan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely Zach Frazier territory. I think it's potentially take your pick at whatever developmental OT you think has the biggest upside. Either way, I think that O-line is their biggest need. And I think they're definitely going to have to address it just based on kind of Brock Purdy's play style and their team's play style, just in general.
All right, Zach Frazier. Finally, with the Chiefs.
I think it's obvious. Is it obvious?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think it's as obvious with Tyler Guyton available. But, yeah, A.D. Mitchell is definitely the dude. Can stretch the field, big, good catch radius. Doesn't drop the ball.
I do like the Lad McConkey fit. I've been mocking him to them a lot this offseason, but that's because I've had kind of A.D. Mitchell usually off the board by now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
So A.D. Mitchell.
Got another award. Look at that.
I just hit my last award. I hit the 50 mocks finally.
Oh,
which is because they never counted the ones before the award system started.
Oh, right.
50 now.
All right. So here is our complete first. It took forever. John and I were going back and forth at the beginning a lot. But Caleb Williams to the Bears at 1. Jaden Daniels, Commanders at 2. Drake May, Patriots at 3. Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cards at 4. Joe Alt to the Chargers at 5. Malik Neighbors, Giants at 6. Roma Dunze to the Jets up from 10 to 7. Dallas Turner for the Falcons at 8. JJ McCarthy, the Broncos at 9. Going up from 12. Olu Fashanu to the Titans at 10. Byron Murphy, the Vikings at 11. Jared Verse, the Bears at 12. Quinion Mitchell to the Raiders at 13. Talise Fuaga for the Saints at 14. Brock Bowers, the Colts at 15. Cooper DeJean, the Eagles up to 16. Tyrion Arnold for the Jags at 17. Back-to-back Crimson Tide players. J.C. Latham, Bengals at 18. Johnny Newton, the Rams at 19. Nate Wiggins for the Steelers at 20. Graham Barton, The Dolphins at 21. Troy Faltano to John Seahawks at 22. Bo Nix to the Vikings at 23. Jackson Powers Johnson, back-to-back Ducks to the Cowboys at 24. Ryan Thomas Jr. for the Bills up to 25. Laiatu Latu for the Bucks at 26. Kool-Aid McKinstry to the Cards at 27. Logan's Packers going Jordan Morgan at 28. Chop Robinson to the Lions at 29. Amarius Mims to the Ravens at 30. Zach Frazier to 49ers at 31. And Adonai Mitchell, Chiefs at 32. How are we feeling, gents?
All of 100% accuracy.
Logan, were you okay with all of John and I's picks in the top 10?
Yeah, I only disagree with the Daniels over May pick. I'm a May truther. But other than that, no, I really like it. I think that there's some movement there that I like. Yeah, I especially like some of the trade ups. There's going to be a trade up into the top 10 that does not involve a quarterback. I read all these mock drafts, and it's only the quarterback trades happening in the top 10. And I'm telling you, someone's going to trade up either for Alt or for one of the top 3 wide receivers.
Yeah.
I feel it. I feel it in my bones.
When John and I were discussing it, I badly wanted to do the Bills to 7. I know it would cost a lot, but like to get one of the top 3 in Buffalo for Josh Allen.
There's precedent for that. Remember the Falcons traded for Julio?
Yeah.
I saw somewhere, and I'm not sure if it's still the case or if the original contention was even accurate, but I just saw it somewhere that the Bills couldn't do it because they're in such cap hell right now that they couldn't afford the signing bonus for a top 10 pick. Again, I don't know. I didn't fact check that when I saw it.
Let's find out. Let's see what
when that Stephon Diggs trade hit, a lot of people were like, well, they're going to try to make a big play to get into the top 10 for one of these guys. And someone mentioned how
they are currently at $2.8 million in cap space. That is not a lot. And if you had a top 10 pick, what is the salary, the signing bonus hit?
So SpotTrack has them with 3.6 million.
Okay, let's say 3. I was at OTC, which is superior, but I'm also on SpotTrack on another tab right now, so that just tells you what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I guess SpotTrack doesn't have the draft picks.
And then the average salary for just number 10 would be 5.3 million. It doesn't show what a signing bonus would be at right now, but I don't know. Just a quick glance. The vibes seem to match that statement you heard, Logan.
Love that. I'm a big vibes analysis guy.
Sometimes when you're on the fly, you got to do it that way.
Exactly.
Well, I thought they had, oh yeah, here's the draft. Oh, it takes you to the draft tracker. That's not fun. How does that make sense? Because SpotTrack had, they used to have the draft picks pool on here, but I don't see it on the mobile version anyways.
So the signing bonus for Bryce Young was $24 million. Now that's a quarterback, and that's the number 1 overall pick.
What was the pick we projected? They traded up to was 8.
7.
For the Bills? Or, I'm sorry, for the Jets was to 7.
Yeah, so I see on this Bleacher Report salary scale, I don't even know what year this is for, but for the number 7 overall pick, when did the Bucks have the number 7 overall pick?
Well, I'm looking at Tyree Wilson was the 7th overall last year, and he got a signing bonus of $15 million.
Oh, good Lord. This was 2014. Jesus.
So his cap hit the first year was $4.5 million, and he was the 7th pick last year.
Okay.
So, and I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't matter what position you're at.
No, it's slot.
It's slotted no matter what. So Tyree Wilson, outside linebacker pick at 7, would have gotten the same amount if it was a quarterback, receiver, tight end, O-line, right?
Yeah.
So just looking at that, if his signing bonus was, and I know the cap has gone up a little bit. So as a baseline, $4.5 million, the Bills would have to make some movement in the cap. They'd have to free up some space to be able to make a move like that. And you still have to pay your other guys too.
Just sign Josh to an extension again. It's fine. 10 void years added on. Anyways, all right. So yeah, the only thing I didn't like was the JJ to Denver thing. I still think Bo Nix needs to be a Denver Bronco. I think that is the absolute perfect system for him with Sean Payton.
Well, Rusty, going back to vibes-based analysis, doesn't it feel too perfect for it to happen?
No, it doesn't. I've been saying Bo Nix to Denver for 4 months now.
We'll see. I feel like who's going to be more upset if Bo Nix doesn't go to Denver or if Michael Penix doesn't go to the Raiders?
I mean, if Michael Penix wants to go to the Raiders in the top 10, I will not be upset, John.
I mean, let me rephrase. I'm going to be happy because I predicted it correctly. I read the tea leaves right, but I'm not going to be upset because also part of me, the toxic fan in me as a Seahawks fan wants Penix to Seattle.
Please, dear Lord, get Michael Penix in the top 10 so I can win a lot of money.
No, not trade up, but I don't know. I just want to see what draft Twitter would do if Penix goes there.
John, I have a Michael Penix bet for top 10.
I know. Your money doesn't. Actually, I guess I do have some sway in that because you agreed to buy me a steak if that happens.
There was no oral contract, Logan. This is not true.
Hearsay.
This is not true.
Oh, shit. I turned into a trial judge all of a sudden.
No, I'm 100% lying. But, I thought I could gaslight him into thinking it was right.
But, yeah, I think other than the Knicks thing, I think I really like the Eagles. I hearing it, and I really like. I love DeJean to Philadelphia, and I've keep hearing that they want to trade up.
I could see DeJean being the first corner off the board, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen that in like 1, maybe 2 mock drafts, but I did say though once I saw his workout, I was like, dude, this guy's top 15.
Yep. I've heard Packers love him, Eagles love him, Seahawks love him. Like, if Seattle stuck at 16, DeJean might have been the pick in this mock.
Yeah. But it will definitely be interesting. We're now we took this mock so long that we're actually inside 24 hours now to the draft. We're at 23 and a half hours. So
did you download and save that one that we just did?
We're still alive, John. But yeah, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to catch our live stream the first round tomorrow night. We'll start at 8 Eastern because my class gets out at 7:45 Eastern. So I will be either physically running or we'll see. I think I'm going to drive back, but I'll be dressed in my normal draft attire. You'll have to wait to see what exactly that means tomorrow night, but we will start pretty much right when the draft starts at 8 Eastern tomorrow night. And we will have a bunch of people. There's going to be a bunch of different people coming on throughout the first round. So it should be fun like it usually is. It's a marathon, but it's a good time. It's for sure.
I'm looking forward to like day 2 and day 3 when the real nerds are sticking through and everyone else is enjoying their life otherwise.
Yeah, we don't live stream that, John. You don't need to see me on day 2 and especially not day 3.
Pouring over the spreadsheets.
But yeah, thank you guys for being on for the final mock of the 2024 draft season. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and X. FAA_bets as well. FAApodcast.com is our website. Check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. And we will see y'all back tomorrow night.